Karishma Vaswani, our Bloomberg Opinion columnist, believes that, to that point, China won't back down first because President Xi Jinping can withstand more economic and more political pain than his U.S. counterpart. She joins us right now to talk us through the thesis there. Karishma, you don't think China blinks first. Why not?
Well, David, I think the main reason is because Xi Jinping is in a much more politically powerful position than Donald Trump. He is effectively the most powerful politician that China has seen since Chairman Mao. He doesn't have to face midterm elections the way Donald Trump does. On the economic side, yes, of course, the Chinese economy is in a difficult position, and there is no doubt whatsoever that these tariffs will have a huge economic impact on China. But they will also make goods in the United States more expensive for American consumers. That's going to start to bite no matter what Donald Trump and the administration says. And there are already concerns emerging from the United States about the impact, the long-term impact of either an economic slowdown or a recession. Those kinds of things will start to feed into the narrative in the U.S. in a way that they won't necessarily be fed in China, partly because of the degree of control that the Communist Party has over the media and over public policy. But also, this has been a huge opportunity for the Chinese to consistently bang on with that narrative that I've talked to you about before, David, on the program, and certainly written about in my columns, which is China is being put down by the United States. And this is another example, they believe, and they are saying to their people, of not withstanding the fight from the U.S., not taking this lying down. And I think that's why Beijing will consistently show a very bold face to the U.S., the way we've seen in the last few days.
But China's not the only one taking this strongman approach, because the U.S. as well, at least Trump for now, is sticking to his guns. So is there any room for a détente?
No, you're absolutely right, Annabelle. And I think it's really interesting that we heard from Donald Trump, this idea, while also putting more tariffs on China, that, hey, look, he said, I'm open to a phone call. I'm expecting a phone call, words to that effect. I think that was a sort of olive branch to the Chinese. Whether or not they take it, that's the big question. There has been some reporting about the fact that what the Chinese are waiting for is some kind of backdoor diplomatic channel to open up between the two sides. And that, in my view, would be very wise. But Xi Jinping and his advisors aren't going to agree to any sort of meeting which puts China on the back foot. And why would they? They've seen examples of what happens when politicians like Zelensky, for example, go to the White House and are effectively embarrassed on the global stage. That is something that Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party will not accept. They will not want to have a meeting where Beijing is also not in charge.
And, this is like, I was having a conversation with a colleague recently. It's like watching one's parents divorce, and they're, in fact, moving even further away from each other. And, the likelihood of reconciliation seems to be just getting even further. And I just need to ask what the impact of this divorce will be on the rest of us.
Yeah, David, that's such an excellent question, and it's certainly been on my mind as well. I mean, cast your mind frame back to 2018 when the first U.S.-China trade war sort of really kicked off, right? And at that time, there was a sense for the rest of us. We got our first sense of what this divorce might be like. But then, COVID happened. There was a sort of a stop to all of that. The Biden administration came in, still tough on China, but in a much more reasonable fashion. And to take that divorce analogy further, it was a negotiated settlement that the rest of us could, as the metaphorical or figurative children of this union, could live with. This time round, all bets are off. And I think what we're going to see, as I've written about before, is China making those inroads with other parts of the world, particularly in the Indo-Pacific. As our China correspondent, Min Lo, was just talking about to you guys, that visit to Southeast Asia, really essential, really important, and the key, I think, factor of what we're going to continue to see from the Chinese going forward, trying to make that messaging really clear that it's China that's the global grown-up on the global stage. It's the one trying to make trade deals. It's the one trying to, stand up for the rules-based order, notwithstanding with the caveat, of course, that China likes to use those rules in order to improve its own advantage in the global arena. So I think what we're going to see is a very ugly split, and the rest of us are going to be collateral damage, unfortunately.